I'm going to be featuring watercolor tonight. I do all different kinds of mixed media painting, but tonight we're going to focus on watercolors, and we're going to focus on watercolors together with doing drawing. So this is an example of a piece that I did for this show. So it's being debuted at this show. And I love pods. I love pods and I love Queen Anne's lace, you know, weeds, right? And things that are growing in the back, like in the hinterlands near a lake or something like that. So these are some fun pods that I made with some Queen Anne's lace. The thing with this one is that I put the watercolor down first and then I put the pen on top. Where this one, which is poppy pods that I love, I put the marks down first and then I put the watercolor on top. So in order to put the watercolor on top of your marks, you have to be sure that the ink that you're using is a permanent ink, right? You want to be sure that when you slosh that watercolor on there, that the ink doesn't go running all over the place. So when we get into that, I will show you a couple of inks, the types of markers I like to use and the inks I like to use so that they're permanent. And later, when I get to the auction part of the show, then I will be running these on auction for this evening. Now, what we're going to use is, and what I use for my 5x7 blank cards is these four, hey, Barbara Florentine, 4x6 Jack Richardson watercolor postcards. What's awesome is that, let me see if it tells you here, they're 135 pounds. That's what that means right there. And so they're beautifully thick. They'll hold up to water. They don't bow all over the place when you're working with them. They are just phenomenal and they're an excellent price. They come in these packs of 50. So this is what I'm going to show you creating a piece on here. And then the other kind of paper that I like to use that looks amazing on these cards and looks awesome inside a mat is this handmade paper. So do you see what the handmade paper looks like on the edges where it's all decal on the edges like that? Oh my gosh, I love that paper. And so let me show you that paper. So I buy that also in packs of like 25 or 50. And so this paper is, I think, made in India or someplace like that. It's 100% cotton. It takes watercolor beautifully. And so that is another type of surface that I like to work on. Again, it's a size 4x6, so it'll fit beautifully onto those cards. So the other thing that we're going to be using today is pan watercolors. So these are pan watercolors. And this is a Christy Rice set. If it's closed up, it looks like that. This is called a Christy Rice travel set. Travel sets will have a little ring on the bottom so you can stick your finger on there like that and hold it. Well, I am right-handed, so I would put it on my left hand so that that way you can hold it up when and paint when you're standing in an easel or standing outside and easily be able to work with it. Now this set only comes with 12. These are called half pans of watercolor. It comes with her 12 and then I added a whole row of my own in the middle because you can buy empties and then fill them yourself. So that's what I've done is I bought a big box of empties and then they come with these little magnets that go on the bottom and the tin is metal. So you put the magnets on the bottom and then you can fill that whole middle row. Now, if the middle row were empty, that's so you can use like a water brush or something. If you've ever seen one of those where you can take it apart or you have a two-piece brush, a travel brush, and you can put it in there if you want the brush to be inside the travel set. But the travel set that I have, I was like, no, 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 I need more colors. Of course, 12 is just not enough. So what I do is I use those little pans. So these little half pans, and I take tube watercolor and I fill them up. So for instance, tonight, one of the giveaways is this little half pan that I filled up with this cerulean blue professional watercolor. Okay, so, and you see how it's not falling out because it's sort of creamy, pretty color. Yeah, the cerulean blue is what a lot of people use for the sky or for oceans or something like that. It's a very versatile color, and sometimes some brands call it sky blue instead of cerulean blue. But the way that you know if what's in a color, so you can say, oh, they're calling it one name, but if you look on a tube of watercolor, it's going to tell you what pigments, like right here, it's telling me what pigments are inside there. So it says PB 35, so pigment blue 35. And in my on my website, which is dsart.com, if you go there, I have I make articles when I do my lives on Sundays. I do a live lesson on Sundays. And so my website is right here, deetsart.com. And when you go to my website and you read my articles that have to do with watercolor, usually there's a link in there to the pigment database that explains to you what these pigments are. And so then you become a pigment nerd. Now this is a cool color. This is an interesting color because it has only one pigment in it. That means it's easy to mix with other colors. This one is a new color from Schminke. It was frightfully expensive, but I had to have it because of the color. And it's made up of 6 pigments, which means it doesn't really mix well with other colors. That's one of the tricks that watercolorists do is when you're color mix, or if you're using acrylics or oils or any kind of paint, it's usually easiest to color mix your own custom colors from single pigment paints. As long as one of the paints that you're mixing is a single pigment, it helps. So it helps to know that next level. And I know Daydreamer Debbie was talking about, she's a self-taught and she's learning, and I've been a painter for over 20 years. So you know, I kind of get into the pigments. I really like the pigments, and that's something that a lot of times people aren't aware of that I like to share. Now, in addition to that, I buy these empties. So this is a container that was empty. And then, oh, this is not the one I want to share with you. This is the one I want to share with you. These are also by Christy Rice, but they come empty. And this is my shimmer. So Daydreamer Debbie, you had mentioned that you had that CSY set. I think this is the exact same set right here that you had, so that you used on the black paper. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have that set. Right? I love that paint. Now, I've also bought just along the way from different people, even some of the people on Whatnot I've found make paint in some cases. So I have bought all these custom made by individuals. So I'm supporting small businesses, um, colors that are all shimmer colors. So I have one whole palette just for my shimmer colors. And I love them. I often go back and just, you know, put a dot or two of the shimmer on my artworks because I just love them so much. Also, I want to encourage you. Um, I seem like a low key person, Andrew's saying over on YouTube. That's funny. Um, also I want you to encourage you to take a look on Whatnot in the house at the bottom of the screen. Go to the buy now, and in the buy now, if you type in supplies, you're going to see this is a little set of 6, and I will fill it with 6 colors. If you have a special request, you can tell me. But this, so I sell them where I fill it up for you with a good combination or a special request combination of colors. And there's that size, which is the 6, and then there's a larger size. So all you have to do is go to the little house at the bottom of the screen, type supplies, and that will pop you in. To where you will be able to see those available for you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take us over top of the table because I think that's about it for supplies. Of course, you're going to need some sort of container for water. This is my favorite because it's quiet. You know, I have these glass ones, but man, they make a lot of noise. So this one's quiet and it holds your brushes just like that. It's like a tulip thing. And then Daydreamer Debbie showed the brush rests that I have, and then these are my favorite Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to put you up over top of the table, and we're going to get to painting. Yay! We're going to use one of these Jack Richardson cards, and we are going to do the process of putting some ink down first. Now, what I use for inspiration when I'm working is I like to go out to what are they called? Copyright free websites and take a look at what they have to offer. So, for instance, these are the poppy pods like this that I draw a lot. I love that shape. And so these are reference images for poppy pods right there. So you can get a feel for what they look like. And then these are some other interesting, like a interesting flower pod. Who knows about milkweed? Isn't it milkweed that attracts the butterflies, right? The monarch butterflies, is it? And so I love this concept of the milkweed, and I thought we would go ahead and draw a milkweed on here. So the first thing that we're going to do, though, is we're going to hold on just a second. Let me move my other camera out of the way for a moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by drawing the milkweed on here. Nothing fancy. The idea is just to be loose and have fun. Now, I use two different types of pens. Well, three different types of pens. I'll show you. I use a dip pen. So this is called a dip pen. And you actually can remove and put on new tips. This is the old-fashioned type of way to dip into your ink. Then there is the Micron pen, which the thing with the Micron pens is that you have to throw them away when you're done with them. And so I constantly am buying the sets like this to be sure that I have my Micron pens available. I always have a backup, right? And this gives you a beautiful black line. As a matter of fact, let me take I'll do it on the back. Because you know, we're not painting on the back. But the Micron pens come in different tip sizes. So this one is an 05. The whole set, you know, there's bigger ones and small, teeny tiny ones for details. The 05 and the 08 are the two that I tend to use the most. So there's the 05 and the 08. And this is permanent ink. And the great thing is, yes, Studio Cat says those are great. They are so amazing because they go like permanent immediately. Fabulous. So these are something that I use all the time. But the thing is that when you're working with a nib like this, that's a standard nib, um, what happens is your lines are uniform. So as you're drawing, for the most part, your lines are uniform. So another kind of pen that I like to use that's not uniform. Sorry, I missed who makes the pens. Daydreamer Debbie. These are by Sakura. So it's a Japanese company, Sakura. And the pen is called a Micron pen. Are you able to see that okay? Like I said, my computer like shut off. And normally I can see exactly what you see on the other computer. So this is a permanent pen. It comes with ink already in it. When it's done, bloop, you throw it away and get a new one. This is a refillable fountain pen. It's a Japanese fountain pen. It's called the Sailor Fude de Manon. Now, normally when I finish my live workshops and they are on YouTube, I go back into the video description and I add links to these items. So if you missed it, what it was, there's a way for you to get that. Now, the Fude de Manon has a little bent tip. Do you see the little bent tip there? And that lets me do thin lines. Whoop. So there's a nice thin line right there. And then I change the angle, and then I can get different thicknesses of lines. Also, because it's a fountain pen, the line is not necessarily continuous, so I'm able to have a more organic look to what it is that I'm doing. But I can go in with the tip on the side and do detail lines as well as do thicker lines as I'm working. So that's why people love these for urban sketching. And they also love it for urban sketching because inside here is this is called an ink converter, but those ink cartridges are not permanent. Those are for writing, but if you get them wet, they are slishy sloshy. So this is called an ink converter, where I can suck up the ink out of a bottle like this of fountain pen ink. But you only want to use fountain pen ink. You don't want to use other ink like this, which is India ink, because this is too thick and it will clog up the tip of your fountain pen. Okay, so that is a caveat that you have to make sure that you have. I like these Rohrer and Klingner sketch inks myself because they're permanent. Like when I put them down, I can just come back over them with water like this, boop, boop, and they're, for the most part, they are permanent very quickly on my papers. Um, but I would have to say that my absolute favorite, oh, now I have to get out my pens and actually use them. Exactly. A dip pen is my absolute favorite. My absolute favorite because of the very sketchy and very uneven lines. So it gives me a very organic look. What you want to do though is you don't want to leave your ink, your permanent ink bottle open, because then you're gonna the ink in there will begin to dry up on you. So you want to have a little bottle of some sort. Like I like when you go to a restaurant and they have those little like honey jars or jam jars, and then I keep those because you want to take your ink and you want to pour it into a small jar like this so that you can just dip the perfect amount, just like that. And you can close this back up, and A, you're less likely to spill a whole jar, and B, you're keeping this jar closed and hydrated while you're working with a small amount here. So let's take this and let's draw this real quick like. So I'm dipping and then tapping. Now, these kind of dip pens come with all different kinds of what are called nibs. So this is a dip pen with a changeable nib, and then Speedball makes all these crazy nibs. So you definitely want to take a look. My favorite is this C4. A C is a flat on top, and the 4 is how wide or narrow it is. Okay, so the C4 is my favorite. And so I'm tapping off the excess. Now, I usually don't go straight to my artwork. I take a little piece of paper, just a blotter, just like they used to use back in the old days, right? You would have a blotter. So here I have a piece of paper, and there, the ink is flowing. So now I'm going to draw my milkweed. Not exactly like that, but something similar to that. I just love the pods. I like pods. What can I tell you? I just love pods. And then now I can see I'm beginning to run out of ink. So I'm going to dip it again right there. And I'm going to come up this way. And I'm going to put another pod up here that kind of goes over this way. I'm looking at the picture and then I'm coming back and then I'm getting a feel for. And, some people are not comfortable doing just going straight to an image like this. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, then you can draw on here first. So draw with like a pencil and then go back over it with either your dip pen or one of these other pens with permanent ink. Okay. That way you can erase, if you want to, the shapes that you're working with. Okay. Somebody asked, how do I clean the pen? When I'm done with this pen, I just rinse it off in water, and then I use my fingernail usually and I go underneath there and make sure that it's clean because this is actually two parts. There's ink held in between there, see? And so this little top part that's gold lifts up and I make sure it gets clean underneath there. Okay, I'm gonna bring another one up here and then we have one more pod that I'm going to draw in, and it's going to go like that, and it's going to have like that. I like the leaves on here. They're just like classic, long, skinny, beautiful leaves. So this will just get you comfortable with drawing. Come on, y'all. It took me so long to get comfortable with drawing. I was like, if I'm going to do watercolor, I kind of need to learn how to draw. Yeah, that might be a good idea. So I have focused for years on learning how to draw. Okay, and this is a little bit thicker here. The ink is skipping a little bit, which is perfect. I love that. And let's just say it comes back up here like this. Bloop. Right now, I'm not taking my time. I'm doing this quickly. Normally, I would, do a pencil sketch, and then I would go on top of it with my ink. But I wanted to get some ink down so it can begin to dry. Right there we go, like that. And over here, there's a fun one that comes over here. Now, one thing I've heard art teachers, and they're like, "Don't turn your work. Learn to move your hand." No, 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 no. I turn my work all the time, all the time. Okay, and then we're going to have a leaf coming out of here like that. Nice. So this one down here, I want you to see, you see how there are little nubbies on there? Me too, yeah. So I'm just going to draw like a few little nubs. Nothing too earth-shattering, just something to give the idea that there's something going on there. Now, these are this ink, I'm using it in a thick consistency. So I'm going to set it aside and we're going to work on something else while this dries for a moment, and then we're going to put watercolor on it. Okay, fun. So let me do that on this pod too, because I just want it to appear like all the pods have these marks on them. Okay, there we go. Nice. So just a quickie sketch. Now, normally I would take this and I would rinse it in my water or have a separate cup of water that I would rinse in order to clear it out. I don't want to get it into my watercolor water because the black is like really dense. But now I can also sign it right here. So I'm putting my signature here. And then we're going to come back and watercolor this, but I do need to give it just a minute to dry. Okay, because if I hit it right now with water, actually, let's hit it with a little bit of water here so you can see. Boop. There's a little bit. Do you see a little bit of the gray coming up there? That's because I didn't quite give it enough time. But since I did it on one, I might as well do it on the others, right? And you can use that to your advantage, the running of the paint. Why not? It kind of creates a little shadow, if you will. Okay, but we're gonna set that aside and let it dry. It looks great though, right? Yeah, I love to use that, the fact that this will stay wet just that little bit of time and go back in, and maybe I pop my shadows in, I do the edges there, that kind of stuff. So I will take advantage of that. I do. I do. Um, okay, so let me show you the other paper. Now, what I'm going to do here real quick, like this is my favorite all around studio paper, which is the Fabriano mixed media 108 pound, okay? And so what I'm gonna do here is I like to work on top of this. It's a good paper for working on top of, okay? And it doesn't matter if it gets paint on it, it's a, or marks, it's a mixed media paper, so I just do collage on top of it anyway, and so that's fine. So this is the handmade 100% cotton paper that I showed you earlier that I did these kind of artworks on here. Oh, aren't they fun? So I was just putting dots of watercolor on there. And so these are ones where I already put the watercolor on. And then I still have my pen ready to go. And I sit there and I draw on these. And it's so much fun, y'all. It's very relaxing to do this. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I was looking at the time. It's super relaxing to be able to do this. And so now I'm just going to take my pen and let's just say I'm going to do a design on here. So once the watercolor is dry, so this watercolor is dry, then I can come back with my inks or my pens and do some fun drawing on it, right? I mean, fantastic. This is an example of one that has leaves on it like that. So you see how I go on with the pen? Now, if you're afraid of this kind of pen, the dip pen, then use a micron pen. So here's the 08. And so I can come on with this, the micron pen works beautifully on here too. So let's do this right here. I'm going to do a fern head. So I'm going to bring it around like this. So this works, great on on there as well. And you just draw, 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 draw. So you're able to draw your designs right on there. And these are quick and easy, and you can prepare these backgrounds ahead of time. So let's do a quickie background on this so you can see using the watercolors while that other thing is drying. So I'm going to put a little bit of this. The cool thing about these kind of uh, sets is they always have a mixing area. And so I can put a little bit of that color out here like that. If I have a tube of it and I don't happen to have it in here, I can just put a little bit of it out there. And then I can just use my brush and I can add water and it will become it'll become watercolor paint. Awesome. Okay, so then I just take this. Normally when I'm working on, whether I'm working on this handmade paper or the other kind, um, I try to put my circles in the middle first and then go to the outside because I found otherwise I make my circles so wonky. And I before I was a painter, I was a computer systems analyst, so I kind of like things to be somewhat, in the right proportion. Now, I'm doing this real quick like. You may try to do it real quick like and be like, how come I can't do that so fast like Tristina? Okay, I've done this like hundreds of times. Okay. Above when you get a minute. Okay, let's see. There was a question. Boo, 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 boo. Does the mixed media paper take acrylics and ink sprayed well? Okay, Studio Cat. This mixed media paper takes acrylics well, but I find that with inks, um, it's only 108 pounds. It's not 140 pounds, so it can tend to warp a little bit if you get it too wet. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. And thank you for letting me know there was an open question. I appreciate it. Oh, I guess that was Studio Cat. But when I'm using this mixed media paper and I'm collaging on it, perfect. because it's 150 pages in this pack. Yikes. Yeah, so 150 pages, it's a lot of pages. It's very economical. So if what you want to do is a bunch of collaging, and it's just the right weight too for cutting out stuff. So I highly recommend it for that. But for actually doing watercolor, I recommend your 135 pound or 140 pound, okay? Will be better for you. All right, what are we going to put across here? That's always the question, right? Let's do this really cute purple right over here. So this was perfectly dry when I started. Like this one's perfectly dry. This one's dry. All you have to do is use a little water and activate it, and you are good to go. Isn't that cool? I just love it. I used to hate watercolor. I used to be like, "Oh, watercolor is horrible. I don't know how to work with it. It activates when you get it wet again and all this kind of stuff." And now I'm like, I just love watercolor. So one of the things I love about watercolor is the portability of watercolor. The fact that I can take these with me, and I do when I go somewhere. So I don't have to be without my beautiful colors, right? So, and I'm looking going, okay, that one needs to be a little bit bigger. And even if the paint is already dried on the palette here, I can just re-wet it and pick up a little bit more and go back in and make this one a little bit bigger. So they kind of match a little bit. And I like when they touch, when they're wet and they touch, and so the colors kind of meld together. I think that's really fun. So that's what I do to create these little sets, and then I go back over top of them with the pens and I do that. Okay. Um, so I'm not going to finish that because that would be painful. It takes too long. This, however, should be dry enough now that I can work right over top of it. What? And you know what? Your pots don't have to be green. They can be whatever color you want. I am in a purple mood lately. You see how I have my purple pods here. So I love purple and what is it? Purple and green next to each other. And since I'm going to do the leaves with a green, now the Christy Rice set has a green in it right here, but it's kind of olivey. The green is very olive, and I like punchy greens. So I added my own greens into here. Plus, you can mix your greens. How do you mix your green? Greens are so simple to mix. You just use a blue. So I'm going to use that peacock blue. That's a Holbein color. Yes, purple, exactly. Um, so now all I have to do is add some yellow. The one I'm dipping into is a lemon yellow, and mix that in there, and ta-da! Punchy, punchy, punchy greens. I love the punchy greens. Now, if I want to tone that down a little bit, because I'm like, okay, that's a little, let's put it on here so you can see. It's like synthetic green looking. It's almost too bright. So since it's too bright, what I want to do is I want to reach in and either get a warmer yellow, like this is a yellow ochre. So I can put a yellow ochre in there. See how it instantly downgrades it so it's not quite so synthetic looking. Here, so you can see the difference there, right? Um, or if I want to downgrade it even more, let me see, I can get something even a little bit darker. This is a quinacridone gold. There we go. So I just love how easy it is to play with the intensity of your colors by just what the colors that you have in your palette there. So that's a much prettier green, a green that I'm happier with, and I'm just going to go right over top of the other ones. Bloop, like that, because you can just layer your watercolors, so it doesn't matter if you put it over top of the other ones. So let's just do this. The nice thing is, see, that ink is not, it's not coming up. What? It is so cool. Okay, so that is, now what I usually do is I'll go over, I start with the lightest colors, so I have a light green, and then I'm gonna add more layers and intensity of green. I'm gonna, put maybe this side darker than the other side. I'm going to play around with that. And let's talk purples. Purples are made by, okay, let's do that again. The whole made by thing. Purples are made by what? Blues and, okay, let's do that peacock blue again, which is my favorite blue in all the world, the peacock blue. And then we want a magenta. So we want to grab some magenta here and put that in. Oops, see my blue is coming over onto the magenta, but it doesn't matter because it's watercolor and I can just clean it off super easily. Okay, so I'm just grabbing more magenta because I put a lot of blue in there. Now I'm getting a darker blue. Keep going, keep going. More magenta, more magenta. Now it's getting deeper, right? And shortly we will have some purple. Actually, there is some purple in this palette right here, but the purple that's in the palette is a red purple, and I tend to like a blue purple because what? Purple comes from red and mixing red and blue, right? And so I tend to like my purples to be a little bit more blue. So that's why I didn't want to use her purple straight out of there. There we go. Now we've got a purple going. I want it a little bit lighter than that, so just a little bit more. Nice. So these, I just got these. How cute are those, right? Okay, so let's put some color on here and watercolor. I'll just use some water and on a paper towel, and that'll come right out of there. Amazing. So here we go. See, even this, it's like, whoops, I'm using too much water. So if, I mean, not enough water. So if it's not enough water, what I can do is take a paper towel, broop, and lift out some of the color. And then if I go, ooh, that was a little too intense, I had too much color on my brush, because I prefer to put a lighter color on and then layer, layer, layer in my darkers. Okay, so like this. They look so good together, the purple and the green, right? Ah, I just love purple and green together. It's fabulous. Now, I see something and I go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. See the little bit of purple that came outside the line? What? You may be like, you may love your artwork to look very organic, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a blender brush. So I'm going to take the blender brush here. I don't want too much water in it, just a tiny bit of water in it. And then I can just work. If you're using a good watercolor paper, that's the thing, you have to be using that 140-pound watercolor paper or 135-pound, then you can come in here and you can remove that color from around there. You just need a blender, like one of these stiff blender brushes, to make it work. Make it work. Now I do want to put some brown on the stem right there. So there is a very nice brown in here, right here, but I'm going to combine that brown. I'm combining it with, and if you want to see what the color is, you can just tap it on here. Woo, way too dark, way too dark. Hey, K&L Resale, welcome in, welcome in. I am doing a demo for the Atelier Raid Train. So there are a whole bunch of incredibly talented artists on here right now. Oh, nice, nice. Okay, I like how that came out. And then if I want to, I can just throw some on here and make it look like those also, or branches off of there. Nice. The that color brown is really nice with that, right? Okay. So like I said, I would play, change around some of the colors. I might throw some pink in with this purple in order to really make it, vibrant, right? But that is in general how I do it. Now I might come back after the fact and add some fun. I have these, what are these called? Signo. Who are they by? Uniball is who they're by, Uniball Signo. So my favorite is the gold Uniball Signo pen, but they also make some fun colors like this. And so oftentimes I will come in afterwards, like their white is fabulous as well. And I'll come in afterwards and add dots and things. So this is what it looks like here. When you see the white dots here, and there are little gold dots up here, and the pink dots are right there. And all of that is from these Signo ballpoint pens. They work perfectly on this kind of paper for this kind of project. Oh my gosh, they're so good.